to record. So good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, and we are about to begin the LSAT meeting for the Capitol Hill Cluster School. We will start by having introductions of the actual team members who are present this evening. I'll begin with myself and followed by my co-chair and then our school leaders. And then if any other of our members who are present can introduce themselves, we'll continue with you all in that order. So I am Ramona Burton. I'm parent representative for Watkins Elementary and co-chair of LSAT.
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Griffin, second grade teacher at Watkins and also co-chair.
Good evening. This is Kimberlyn Yurkowski. I am at Watkins Elementary and specialist team.
Good evening, Tatiana Shepard. Serve as the union rep, also second grade literacy teacher at Watkins.
Hello, I'm Evan McPherson, Peabody pre-K 4. I am a teacher rep for Peabody.
Hi, I'm Monique Sullivan, fourth grade Watkins Elementary teacher rep.
I am Beth Dewhurst, union teacher, building rep for Stuart Hobson. Long day.
Good morning. Oh, it's not morning time. Good evening. I'm Brittany Prophet, community chair at Stuart Hobson.
Hi, I'm Annie Slattery, Peabody teacher rep.
Hi, I'm Beth Rosera. Oh, sorry, Karen.
Oh, sorry. Go, Beth.
Sorry. I'm Beth Rosera, LSAT teacher rep at Stuart Hobson.
Hi, I'm Kate Fisk. I'm an LSAT rep from Stuart Hobson.
Hi, Shannon Russell, parent rep from Peabody.
Good evening, Bernstein Black, LSAT rep from Stuart Hobson Middle School.
Good evening, Catherine Antos, Peabody parent rep.
Good evening, everyone. Gertrude Johnson, Stuart Hobson parent rep.
So I'll jump in. Any other LSAT members, team members present that have not had an opportunity to introduce yourself, if you could do so now. How about our principals?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott Berkowitz, principal at Peabody and Watkins.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Fraser, principal at Stuart Hobson Middle School.
Okay, I think I'll just jump right in. I'm sure some others may join us. If I can ask, I think Ms. Griffin, if you can, as you see new team members or any guests arrive, if you can repost the sign-in link, that will help us capture all of our attendees for this evening. So okay. Thank you. So I want to first say, it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and I would be remiss if I didn't start by thanking all of the teachers who are here this evening, including the parents, right? Our teachers, they work so hard, and right now some of us parents are teachers, but I just want to say thank you and kudos to our teachers. This is like above and beyond your duty day, and your commitment to this process, this team, and the work that we do is much appreciated, much valued, and I want to express that appreciation to each and every one of you right now. So thank you very much. I know how hard you've worked. All right, I'm going to get right into our agenda. We have a light agenda this evening. If some of you did email out a modified agenda, we had one item added since I sent out the original agenda. But first on it is open business is LSAT nominations in the upcoming election. So I just wanted to thank those of you who have submitted nominations for yourself or for someone else awesome to join our team. As we shared last month. And as I shared in our communication, we are in our nomination or recruitment season. We're looking for one new parent rep per campus. So one for Peabody, one for Watkins, and one for Stuart Hobson. And we need someone who can commit to a 2-year term as that campus representative. So that being said, if you're a Peabody parent, we're looking for someone currently has a student in pre-K 3, or if you do have a student in pre-K 4 or kindergarten, you might have another one entering, so that you might remain a Peabody parent for the next 2 years. The same for Watkins. So if you have a current 4th grader or below, 3rd grader or below, because we would need you to serve 4th and 5th grade, you are eligible to serve as a Watkins parent rep. And for Stuart Hobson, we would need you to be parents of a current 5th grader, 6th grader, so that you can serve the next 2 years. The nomination form was sent via email. PTA and I have teamed up to do some recruitment efforts to get our principals to help continue to get the word out. I can also post the nomination link in the chat tonight before we move on in the agenda, but I just want to open up to if anyone has any questions, if you would like to know a little bit more about serving on LSAT, what we do, those type of questions. I think any one of us who've been around, I'm probably the newest member of the LSAT, but I'd love to answer any questions. And if you just want to talk offline, give me shoot me an email to my personal email or the LSAT email address, so that I can answer any questions you might have. So nominations will be open through May 14th. And instructions, everything's going to be done online. We will send out an election link so that you can just place your vote in the electronically and submit it. I see a question, make sure I got it. Yeah, so there is a question. They would like to know some clarification between the responsibilities of LSAT and PTA. That's a really good question. And we created, I created a graphic, and Zach created a graphic. I want to pull it up. Let's see if I can share it on the screen. Give me 1 second, because that is a good question.
Ramona, I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Oh, okay. No, I have one that I shared via email. So I was going to share that one. And it's actually a tool that they provided to us, like an LSAT team one tool. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull that one up. Share my screen. Here we go. I think this works. Can everyone see this graphic? See if I can make it bigger. Is that a yes? It's a PowerPoint.
I don't see anything yet.
You don't?
On my, I don't. I just see black. It says you're sharing. Maybe it's coming.
Does anyone see anything? Nope. Okay, then.
It says your screen.
All right, well then I'll just tell you. Okay, we're on to the screen share. So, PTOs or PTAs, as we have, are not required at every school, but it is recommended. So we have a really strong and active PTA. The biggest difference is that the PTA is parent-led, and the membership is largely made up of parents, whereas the LSAT is comprised of both parents, teachers, and school community members. I think Bijan just helped me out and placed the document into the toolkit, into the chat that anyone can actually click on. Let me see. Thanks, Bijan. That's why we have him. And so an LSAT team is required at every school. So I just clicked it and opened it. So if you've seen it in the chat, everyone can click it as well. It's it says 5 parent members required, but not always chaired by a parent. Our LSAT team is a little unique because we we cover 3 campuses. So there's 2 parent reps per campus. So that's a total of 6 parents for hours. We do not have a budget. We do provide some advice and input to our principals on school budgets. Our role is to help set school priorities. We follow along with the comprehensive school plan. We request updates, how it's going, and provide feedback on that. And the LSAT goals typically align with and support the school goals. Whereas the PTA, as I stated, was not required at each school, but it is encouraged. It's led by parents, and primarily the membership is comprised of parents, and they do maintain a budget. They help carry out school priorities through fundraising and various events. They seek parent volunteers to support school events, and their goals also align. So I think the biggest thing is that it's parent-led, the PTA, versus a combination for us, and that we don't have a budget and we don't set priorities. We support and advise our principals. So I hope that answered your question. And if not, we can talk offline. The next item on our agenda is CSP, which we just talked about. This which is a comprehensive school plan. And so I wanted to give our principals an opportunity to share with us a quick overview of that development process, to specifically tell us as an LSAT team, at what point would we come in? I know for our Peabody Watkins plan, this will be our first year working with Principal Berkowitz in developing that and providing support around that. So we want to hear a little bit more about that as we move into May. I know this is that time of year, so I'll stop talking and allow you all to share a little bit with us so that we can set some priorities around that.
Is that on to me?
Yes.
Yeah. So we, I just like you all inherited me in a way. Like I inherited the CSP, and not that it's that bad or good, but understanding what the school's priorities are after a year or almost a full year of being in school has been great. So we've been engaging with our ALT, or academic leadership team, which has teacher leaders and folks that aren't teachers, like mental health team members. And we've been talking about the same things I've been talking about, I think, all year with our school here, with the LSAT here. So I think we're gonna be able to have a pretty good spot by next month to talk to you guys about where our CSP is. So I think our development, we're not going to make massive changes to the CSP, but some tweaks here or there based on the work that we've been doing with the ALT, including identifying the strengths of our programs and our growth areas. We've launched headfirst into the trauma responsive school models, which I think is a requirement for all of our elementary schools in the city, but it's been a nice fit for us coming in. I had some questions about all the different SEL pieces that I learned about before beginning, but that's gonna be a very clear thread. The 3 big takeaways for the trauma responsive model is relationships, resilience, and routines. And we've kind of been building out our culture blueprints throughout the year, and we'll narrow down the focus of the work in the CSP in the next few weeks. One other thing that's come up that I mentioned very lightly to our ALT this week was under the family engagement bucket. We've I don't know if it's official or yet, but we have the beginnings of a family engagement leadership team, which is, as far as I heard, is the first time Watkins and Peabody has had a family engagement leadership team with staff members, and that's exciting for me that we have teachers on it. We've got our social workers on it, and Ms. Caraway too. I think Ms. Caraway is an important part of Watkins family engagement overall. So I think that's a preview of what will be close to what will be our final CSP going into next year. I don't think those are massive changes in practice, maybe some language shifts and focus, but that's where we are. And I want to say this, like one of the things that was on our CSP, that is on our CSP this year, that I thought was really important. I remember Ms. McPherson and Ms. Bloom named this as like being sure that we like close the loop, as we have this academic leadership team that's our teacher leaders and grade level leaders, and they like have an interface with me and the assistant principals and the instructional coaches, and then they should interface back with their teams, and there's like a cycle there, right? So, and I remember Ms. McPherson and Ms. Bloom maybe both naming like closing the loop, and I think with this recent MTSS work, I think there's one last step that the leadership team, like me and the APs, have to take to actually close that loop. But we're almost at like this full cycle of communication, which I think is a nice piece to say that we were able to accomplish this year as part of the work of the ALT and the distributed leadership piece of the CSP. So I think that's kind of where we are at Watkins and Peabody on our CSP. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Principal Fraser.
Yeah, thank you, Principal Berkowitz, for going first as always. Thank you guys for being here and listening to us tonight. I think we're in a similar situation. I've obviously had the luxury of working on the last couple of CSPs with Stuart Hobson in my role as an assistant principal. And I think one thing that I appreciate about the process that DCPS is laying out this year is acknowledging a longstanding practice in schools, which is to try and start next year's CSP by copying and pasting everything that you had from last year. And they're actually like acknowledging like that is to have a 3, 5, or 10-year plan is a worthwhile endeavor. So the first step in the process for all schools is going to be to evaluate, how on point was the CSP that you're operating with this year, and which work streams and action steps do you want to continue next year? Which goals do you want to continue pursuing? And then do you need to make any adjustments? And I think they also leave room for schools that want to throw the whole thing out and start over from scratch. We've honestly been working on a similar CSP for the last 2 or 3 years. So I think we'll continue there with a lot like similar buckets of work and targets in terms of academics and student wellness. But we'll engage with our ALT, like Principal Berkowitz said. We'll also have some engagement sessions with families and possibly even students before we submit this evaluation. I think the first due date's June 11th. And that's really just evaluating how was this year's CSP and how did the school do in terms of progress towards those goals, and which ones do you want to hold on to for next year. So I think we're in the habit of collecting feedback all the time. So like LSAT meetings, PTA meetings, informal meetings with families, all the surveys that you all have to fill out as teachers and families and other stakeholders. All of that feeds into the CSP. So I don't want people to think like, oh my gosh, if I don't go to this, meeting in late May, like they're not going to know what we're thinking or what we want from the school. That's the reason we have this LSAT, really, is to continue gathering that feedback all year. So we'll do a little bit of that, formal listening sessions. I think probably once we have a pretty solid sense of where we'd like to go with the CSP for next year. And then we'll submit that evaluation. And I believe our schools have to submit the draft of their CSP in late July, and then we'll get some feedback, and we're supposed to submit our final CSP before the school year launches. So around mid-August. So it's a pretty tight turnaround, kind of like a deliverable every month from here on out for all schools. Yeah, so that's the timeline, I guess. And those are our rough plans, or what we're anticipating for the Stuart team, at least.
Thanks, that's helpful for sure. So for our new LSAT members that will be joining us in July, we'll just give them that July meeting. We'll kind of bring them into the fold of where we are with regards to the CSP and providing input or feedback. I understand that, and my computer's having issues this evening, so I'm going to just turn off my my video and keep the agenda rolling. I don't know what's going on, but thank you both for that. Any of our LSAT members have any questions regarding the information provided by both principals Frazier and Berkowitz before we move on? Okay. So the added item to our agenda is a discussion around budget and budget updates. I know how excited many of us were to hear the mayor's announcement with regards to additional $14 million in funding going to our schools, and Principal Berkowitz was very happy to share that the Watkins team will be receiving a small chunk of money. So I'll let him share a little bit more about it. It is really hot off the press. There's not a lot he can share, but he did want to make sure that he shared with us. So Principal Berkowitz, you're back on the hot seat.
Absolutely. So yeah, so we all got this, the city got a bunch of money. I think their first step was making the schools whole that had some significant or maybe not so significant, but any budget cuts. And that's not us. I don't think that's Stuart either, not to talk for Principal Frazier, but that's not Watkins, it's not Peabody. We had close to the same amount of money, not less. What we did do in our original budget process, and all schools had the opportunity to do this, was ask for budget assistance. That's different than a petition, but it's like, hey, our budget's short for this reason, and we need this much money to fill like a must-have position. And that's something we did for the Watkins budget. It was a half of a WTU position, a half of a full-time teacher equivalent, which is about $56,000. We did not get that budget assistance. I think most schools don't get the budget assistance. But the next level after making schools whole, the next thing that DCPS did was approve not approve, but give us all those schools that had the budget assistance requests denied, give us that money, right? So that's where the number comes from. We have a meeting. I don't know, Ramona, if we sent communication to the LSAT about it, but we met earlier this week, Mr. Frazier and Ramona and I, about talking like our closed door budget conversations just with the LSAT group about considerations on how to spend the $56,000 at Watkins. I don't have my mind made up. The good news is that the money can be spent very flexibly, so it doesn't have to be on personnel. It could be on personnel. It could be on non-personnel spending, which could be for contracting. It could be for admin premium to pay for additional tutoring and Saturday school, or any opportunities teachers want to exercise to work with kids. It could be spent on supplies. It's really very, very few limits on the spending, which is good. It's basically like an extra $56,000 to our budget. For Peabody, and I believe Stuart is in this position too, that they did not submit budget assistance requests. There is an opportunity for submitting those requests, and the central office has developed a process for that. So if in our conversations with the LSAT, we do decide, say, hey, we want to make a budget request for this amount of money for this reason, that's a possible outcome of our conversations with the closed door LSAT team only. But it's only good news. We're going to, of course, have to work for it and collaborate to come up with a plan, which is absolutely okay by me. And it's a great opportunity to support what we already had in place. I thought our budget was a success, both at Peabody and Watkins, in directing funding and positions towards students. So this only makes it better. So I'm really excited about it.
So for the LSAT members who are present, that day and time that Principal Berkowitz offered for us to meet in a closed session to discuss how to spend that money would be this Thursday at 4 p.m. correct me if I misspoke. That's what I marked on my calendar.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he'll send us out a Teams invitation or however you prefer for us. No, you want me to send it? That's fine. I can send it. A Teams. We'll send some. We'll send an invitation so that we can have a conversation around the budget and how we'd like to see the money spent. As you said, it's about $56,000. Don't get too excited. That goes really quickly, but for others on here, since that meeting is closed, we do plan to send out an email. So if you have some suggestions or some input, we would like to hear from you. And I'll send that email out after this meeting.
Yeah, Ramona, let me say what 56 could buy us, right?
Okay.
Position wise, just so like the community understands how far that money goes. So a full-time teacher or a full-time like interventionist is about $112,000, right? So the 56 number comes from half of that. Our positions that are under the 56 are a lot of the instructional aid positions. Certainly not anyone that's an ET15 or WTU member, but basically like support staff would be the where the money could go if we chose a staffing position. The thing about staffing that we have to be mindful of is that this is not going to carry. We should not think that this is going to carry into the future budget, right? So if we do bring on a position, if we do spend this money on a position, there's a strong likelihood that that position will not sustain past this first year. So that's a big part of the calculus in making this decision. I really want to, not that I'm saying we shouldn't do this, but what we do next year has to be about building capacity, because I think big picture wise, we are getting like a little bit of this stimulus that I'm not confident is going to sustain past 1 year's worth of the budget cycle. So we need to be mindful that not only will we have some urgent and acute needs next year when we welcome all of our kids back, but we're also going to have to sustain our systems and programming long-term to get past the hump of the acute needs, but we'll also have long-term impacts of COVID for years to come. So we have to think short-term and long-term with this money.
Thank you, Principal Berkowitz. Now, any of the LSAT members present would like to comment, have any input before we move on? Everyone's kind of quiet. Okay, so we're all good with Thursday at 4 p.m. We could do a thumbs up. Okay. All right. Works for me too. Okay, so we're going to move on to the general campus updates. Starting with Peabody.
Eric, do you want to say anything about your budget stuff?
I mean, it's the same similar situation. Yeah, it's just for people who like or want to be nerdy about it. It's if you want to look it up, it's the ESSER funding, ESSER, and the money that the city's getting now is ESSER 3, and this is all CARES Act money. What funded our Acceleration Academy and our acceleration dollars in the initial budget allocations were ESSER 2 dollars, and those have different restrictions on them. So those, I think I remember I know some schools and LSATs were frustrated that you couldn't staff positions with those. The ESSER 2 dollars were very much restricted, whereas this big pot of 14 million that the city got or that DCPS got of ESSER 3 money is pretty much unrestricted. But to Principal Berkowitz's point, like I think any LSAT should be careful about where you earmark it, because we're not necessarily going to get that pool of money next year, though we might get the same amount just through different avenues, but that'll all depend on, you know, the next federal budget for schools. And yeah, because we didn't have a reduction in the initial allocation, we didn't get any dollars right away, nor did we file any budget assistance when we did the initial budget build. So we can do that. The timeline on that, for anyone who's curious, Principal Berkowitz and I would have to put those requests in by the end of the day on Friday this week. So that meeting on Thursday is pretty consequential in terms of adding any additional budget assistance requests for either of the campuses, or honestly, we could do one. We've had some behind the LSAT meeting conversations about like, is there, would we want to split a position or split a program or something across all 3 campuses, because that might get, that might be popular with people who are approving how this money gets spent if they know it's going to impact more students and families. So yeah, no like major updates for us, obviously, because we're in that like 3rd tier of eligible schools.
Okay, so I'll go ahead with these campus updates then. All right, so let's start with Peabody's school improvement team, the SIT meeting we had 2 weeks ago, I think. The focus, I think, of the community was on, are we going to open on time? I think, I wish their messaging were a little better. I think I left thinking that yes, Peabody will open on time. Plan A is to open on time. Plan B is to throw more money at overtime and Sunday hours and overtime into the evening to make sure that the project does start on time, or finish on time rather. I made it clear that the 12-month folks like me and our custodial team need to be in there before teachers and to have it ready for teachers. They seemed amenable to that. Our intrepid community members and PTA, including our PTA members, had a follow-up with Charles Allen. Lona said I could share that he's been in touch with DGS and he's gotten assurances that we will in fact start on time. So that's great. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about worst case scenarios. The worst case scenarios is like a week of a delay, which I don't think is, I don't think it's going to happen. So we're going to get ready on that. I want to put some dates together for teachers. We have some admin premium money to give them extra time in their classrooms before their first day back. After, of course, they can come so that they can remember what it's like to set up their classrooms in Peabody. And I'm sure that's going to take some extra time this year. So we're going to have a plan for that as well. All right. We finished our first round of play dates, which were super fun. Lots of great parent feedback and teacher feedback and kids feedback. People like being together and playing. That's really good. We are in the works of doing some more. We'll see what we can get in before our school year is over. The big thing that's out there in the field for 5th grade families is that we have set a date for our 5th grade promotion ceremony. We want to do an in-person promotion ceremony. We can have 250 people outside, and that's what we're going to shoot for. That'll enable each student to bring 2 family members. So we sent a survey for our families earlier this week to let us know if they're interested in coming, along with all of the like, this is why it's not normal and this is how we're going to stay healthy. So that'll be, we're trying to get as much feedback as we can so we can finalize our list and maybe even invite a 3rd family member if there's enough capacity for that. Regardless, we'll have a virtual ceremony as well on the 18th at 1 p.m. So everyone can can participate in the 1 p.m. ceremony. You can even do both. And if mom and dad come in person, grandma can come virtually. And 5th grade team is really excited about this. They've been focused on this for a long time. I think we've gotten a lot of questions answered, and I love their energy around making this event meaningful and a great capstone to a career in Watkins, and a wonderful send off to Stuart Hobson and Stuart Hobson only. So that's something that's exciting for me. Our summer acceleration program, we have one technical thing to get over, and we will be sending our invitations to the families that we prioritize. So we looked at the end of term 3 data along with the rest of the school year, and we've got our lists made. We just need to get all the emails together. Not all of our systems, maybe Fraser knows how to do it, but that's our last step. The email's ready to go. We just have to find the names, and that will be out there to gauge our families on their interest for summer programming. We'll have, I think I've said this last month, we'll have at the pre-K 3, pre-K 4, yeah, K through 5, rising K through 5 levels, we'll have one class up to 15 kids each, supported by a teacher. We'll have one blended pre-K class supported by a teacher and a instructional aide. Ms. Tyler's on board to provide social emotional learning support, and Mr. Gross, our PE teacher at Watkins, formerly from Peabody, will be the summer school coordinator. So we're all ready to go. Our teachers are working on their plans, and those dates again are July 12th, the week of July 12th and the week of July 19th. We have, it goes from 9 to 1. We have our afternoon program. Our partnership agreement is in the works. It's in the smooth as sandpaper procurement process, and we're hoping to get the word out as soon as that partnership is approved. The last campus update I have is also about Teacher Appreciation Week. We cannot appreciate our teachers enough, and I want to thank them, and I also want to thank the PTA who's really been out there thanking them in the virtual space and the in-person space. So thanks for all the love that we're shining on our teachers. I called off, we were having a barbecue, a cookout for our teachers tomorrow. We had to call it off because of that weather. I was talking with teachers, they're like, hail, 40-mile-an-hour wind. So we had to postpone our teacher appreciation event to next week. So we will be bringing, we had about 50 folks ready to come with their families and meet for the first time for some of us. And that was something that I am still very much looking forward to. So I'm looking forward to appreciating all of our teachers in person. And those are my campus updates.
Thank you very much. Do I see a question from Shannon? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Shannon.
I just had one quick question if in case I missed it. You were talking about the promotion ceremony. Is that for 5th grade? And is there something being done for kindergarten or just 5th grade? I don't know if
that 5th grade plan is in the works. Now, we have run into a little bit of a institutional knowledge gap with kindergarten. I don't have any experience with kindergarten. Ms. Hollis doesn't have any experience with kindergarten promotion because her first year was last year, right? And then Ms. Henricks, our team lead, is in the same boat. Last year was her first year. So we're working on it. It's a little bit of a slower process. I think we reached out recently to our team, but we're still working on it. It's not a no, but it's further along than our 5th grade ceremony.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on to Principal Frazier, can you give enrollment updates as well?
Not off the top of my head. Last I saw, we were in the 20s for both schools. I think pretty close on both ends. The numbers are a function of Miss Roy and Miss Turner's current capacity to process the paperwork. Given all the other things that they're doing, like we're trying to get them the dedicated time to continue to put through the numbers, to put through the paperwork. But as of a couple of days ago, I recall we're in the 20s, which kind of puts us in the middle of the pack for close to 4.
Thank you.
All right. So Stuart Hobson updates. Just want to echo Principal Berkowitz's sentiments, and we can't celebrate our teachers enough, and our parents who are doubling as teachers, and our teachers who double as parents. This has been quite the year, and I'm just in reflecting on everything that our teachers do, just really floored by how much they take on, and with a smile on their face, and while presenting as calm, cool, and collected for the kids every day. So really deeply appreciate them. They've done a few things recently at Stuart that I just want to lift up. Some of you may know that the debate team has been on fire this year. They actually just won at nationals this weekend. So our 2nd-year debate team is beating up on high schools from across the country, which is really cool. And we're bringing home a trophy that we'll get to hang on to for a year and then defend for many years to come. So we're really excited for them. And really grateful to our teachers who lean into doing that. So Mr. Place has really spearheaded our efforts there as our debate coach. So we're really grateful for him. Ms. Fisk has been nominated as DC Teacher of the Year for her efforts to help with National History Day. So we're super grateful to her and to the Social Studies Department. She, I think that's really representative of the work that they all do together to help all the kids through National History Day every year. So that's really cool to see. And then Miss Rosera has been nominated for Cooperating Teacher of the Year from George Washington University for everything she does to host student teachers. So all this stuff is like the accolades just have been rolling in this week, which is really cool to see. And then it's also like fun to like walk out of the building and see baseball practice or see the track team running laps, and like it feels normal and it feels like last year for like momentarily. So it's really cool to see just teachers like jumping in to do those things. Miss Tomlinson's, our librarian, started doing book clubs outside with kids. So all those things that like make our school a really fun place to be, I feel like we're starting to really, get going again, or we've just been keeping going virtually, and we're picking them up kind of so we can just pick up where we left off when we get back to school in August. And I just want to like shout out our teachers in particular for all the stuff they've been doing this year to try and keep normalcy or a sense of normalcy for all of us. And then thank you to the PTA and thank you to our families for everything you're doing to support and celebrate the teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. We have to get creative when we're not in person most of the time and we can't see them. So I appreciate all the shout outs and the emails and texts and phone calls and gifts that people are sending to the teachers this week. I think just on the similar front, like school culture stuff that's coming up, we delayed it by a week because we had a few late entries that we wanted to get in, but we have our virtual talent show. So talent show is something that we started a couple years ago, and we're going to have our virtual event this Friday in place of our monthly town halls. So let the kids showcase some of their talents that we don't know about in a fun event. And then we're going to have a pep assembly, our only pep assembly of the year, unfortunately this year, but we're going to pull one off. We're going to do that virtually at the end of May. And then the PTA has organized some really great meetups on Fridays for grade levels. I think Lona could confirm, but I think there have been between 30 and 40 families showing up to the 6th and 7th grade one. And then the 8th grade event is this Friday out on the Stuart Hobson field at from 4:30 to 6. So it's really cool to see the kids there just chit chat for a second. And I know they're organizing some games and some other stuff. So it's good to have those opportunities to socialize. And I thank the PTA for organizing those things. Promotion plans for us. We're, I think, in a similar place to Watkins. We've got our dates pinned down. We actually just messaged this out to 8th grade families yesterday. We're going to do probably, honestly, events, plural, at Stuart Hobson on Wednesday, June 23rd. Because of the health restrictions on public gatherings, we're also limited to 250 people in an outdoor gathering. We have 166 8th graders. So assuming, all or most of them want to attend, we could not bring them all on the field with even one parent. So if we get high interest from families, we'll probably end up doing 2 or 3 in-person ceremonies just by breaking the grade up over the course of the day. And then we'd finish the day with a virtual event. So anybody who opts out of the in-person event or who misses it could sign on that evening to do the virtual promotion ceremony.
What's that date again?
Wednesday, the 23rd.
Great, thanks.
And I think you should have received an 8th grade family update yesterday. And it should have been in there. And we're also sending a survey out to families just to try and get a head count on who's interested in coming in person versus who would prefer virtual, because that'll help us figure out how many ceremonies we need to do.
Mr. Frazier, can I tell you, Jonah, and I'm gonna speak for Tate and say Cassine's feedback is that they want to know what their friends are gonna do because they're scared they're gonna say they want to do an in-person ceremony and then there'll only be like a couple of kids there and then they'll be sad that no one else is there. And now he's looking at me and turned around like, why am I telling his business?
I think that's an interesting social problem. Yeah, maybe encourage them to have those conversations with each other and with families. I'll connect with AP Turner and see if there's any way we can supervise them all in the study hall channel while they have some breakout conversations or something to, have that lunch table chatter that they would usually figure out when we're not around.
Good deal. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is our assumption will be, I think the assumption KT put in the survey was if you don't respond to the survey, we'll assume that you're just attending the virtual event, and you can always opt into the virtual event. Like that's not hard. We have endless capacity for a virtual ceremony. Like that's not the problem. It's if we got more interest at the last second for in-person, we probably would not be able to accommodate that very swiftly. So I think if people are going to do anything, I would, let's say, like opt into the in-person one. And then if you decide to, not attend, that's easier for us to deal with as a school than the other way around.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks for the question. So that's promotion. Yeah, summer plans. I feel like we updated most of this last month. We have our Acceleration Academy starts the week of July 19th. It's a 2-week program, going to be about 9 to 4 or 4:30. That will be for up to 200 rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and a few 8th graders who have incompletes to resolve this summer that we want to keep helping out before they go on to high school. Those families have been invited. They've been notified that they're eligible. We've been working hard to recruit them. DCPS has an initial enrollment deadline, I think, of this Friday. I'm sure that if schools aren't near their target, we'll get a little bit of grace to continue enrolling up until the summer. But we are trying to get as close to our final number by Friday as possible, so that we can start to pin down teachers into plans, and also maybe free teachers up to do some supplemental enrichment for other groups of students. So we'll also have our summer bridge for rising 6th graders the 2nd week in August. Same Panther Pride Academy that any of you Stuart families, your kids got it when they were coming into 6th grade. So we get to go back to that model. And then the teachers, another group of teachers are also trying to put together some hybrid readiness courses. So like getting ready for 6th grade English and literacy, or getting ready for algebra. That'll give the students some assignments that they could do over the course of the summer to keep them fresh and or to practice some foundational skills for courses that they're about to enter. So those are our big summer plans. We're working on CSP development. We already talked about that. We're working on hiring. So we have, because of the way we move some things around on the budget, we're going to we have quite a few vacancies to fill. Most of them will go to internal staff into new titles. We're just trying to create some leadership pathways and things like that within our organization, so that people stick around instead of going to other schools to find those opportunities. One thing I asked Ramona and Lona a couple weeks ago is if anybody's interested, we have space, we have a seat for a parent representative on our hiring committee, and we would love to have a parent present for those interviews if there's anybody who's interested. I know we have at least one person who's reached out, but if you're interested in doing that and helping us out, you honestly could help with just one position. Like if we're hiring for a science teacher, you could sit in on the 3 or 4 interviews that we do with science candidates and then be done. You don't on all 35 interviews that we do for 7 different positions. You could just pick a position and help us with that one, and that would be really appreciated. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me or Ramona or Lona, and we'll contact those families or parents who would like to help us with hiring. Enrollment update. We were at 47% towards our target for next year. So we're really happy with that. We didn't quite make obviously the 60% target that DCPS sent, which is more ambitious than it usually is at this time of the year. So we're really happy to be, I would bet that this time tomorrow we'll be at 50%. So a month into enrollment, we're halfway to our target of 507 kids, which is really great work. We have a lot of people working on this. So those teams, I think, are just really, they're raking in the enrollment forms and doing a lot of one-on-one calls. And we received some feedback that people really appreciate the individualized outreach. So we're trying to call every family one-on-one just to see if they've enrolled yet, if they need help with enrollment, and just to communicate that we want them back next year. And we want to get that sewn up sooner than later. So our goal is to hit that 100% target before we leave for the summer. And just as far as the grade level breakdowns, I think rising 8th grade, so current 7th grade families, you guys are killing it. You're outpacing the other 2 grade levels. And then the rising 7th grade is in 2nd place. And the rising 6th grade is at about 40% enrolled. So they're all pretty close. It's 40 to 47% for each of those grade levels. So we're feeling pretty good about the work that we're doing in the enrollment arena. And we have a bunch of events, like we're doing we have the 3 feeder schools competing for an ice cream social. I will probably make an appearance there with some staff. So whoever can get to that target first is going to get some readers on us. I'm working, we got a donation of some Stuart Hobson yard signs. So families who are enrolled by today will be entered in a raffle to get one of the Stuart Hobson yard signs that'll probably be hand delivered by me and possibly a Panther. Stuart Hobson. He's competing against each other to see which ones can re-enroll at 90% or higher first. We'll throw out some gift cards and raffles and things like that. So we're just trying to make it fun. And we have a whole bunch of people ready to help if anybody has questions about how to enroll or how to fill out that application on Seamless. Last update I have, this hasn't really been on our LSAT radar officially, but I'm just going to put it out there because we've been working on it behind the scenes for the last 10 months. Stuart Hobson has had some HVAC challenges. So if you ask any of the teachers or the kids, there are rooms in the winter that are cold and there are rooms in the summer that are hot. And I know some of you who've been in the cluster for a while remember when the problem was the auditorium and then that got fixed, but now the gym's cold or hot, or it's the one that's temperamental. So what we've finally convinced by pulling a year's worth of work orders to show that this is a chronic challenge for the building, we are going to get an audit of the system that's starting right now, I think, actually. And as part of that audit, DGS has committed to fixing parts that they can while they identify things that are faulty or not working. So the overall improvement of the system should improve a little bit while they do this audit. And the city has also set money aside specifically for this. So as they find equipment that is beyond repair or that needs complete replacement, there is a pot of money that's available to purchase those cooling towers or boilers or duct work, whatever it is that they need to get to make the system better in the long run. And then since we're planning to host summer programs, they've also committed to giving us the portable window units so that we could, if there's a space that's too hot, we could cool it, at least that office or classroom if it's in use by students and teachers this summer, if the building's HVAC system is unable to cool it adequately. So we're continuing to monitor the hot spots and the cool spots on days like today when it's really warm outside, because that's when it's a challenge for us. The temperature in some of those rooms sometimes reflects, within 10 to 20 degrees, whatever the temp is outside, which in the summertime would not be doable on most days for kids and teachers for 8 hours. So I think those are all the things I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to take any questions if folks have them.
Any of our LSAT members present have any questions, follow-up questions for Principal Fraser regarding the information shared?
Yeah, this is Steve. Hi, sorry, Rowan. Principal Fraser, did you say that the additional money is really not going to be available to Stuart Hobson given where we are on our budget request?
Yeah, that's maybe. So the ESSER $3, DCPS is using it. They're making 3 moves with that money. The first thing that they're doing with the 14 million is they're making whole anybody who was short. The second thing they're doing is they're going to fulfill any budget assistance requests that they didn't fulfill during that initial budget building process. So since we didn't file any then, we're not eligible for that. If there's money left over after that, they're going to entertain these supplemental budget assistance requests that schools will put in by this Friday. At least that was my understanding. It's possible that those second 2 buckets are going to get grouped together, but my understanding from the call with central office was they were going to be separated.
All right. I mean, and my next thought might just be for Principal Berkovitz, and this is something that I've sort of been in the front of my mind throughout and is heightened thinking about teacher appreciation, is that if this is going to be one-time money, it seems like the place to invest is in people, and that I continue to think the best investment in people is professional development, just because, I mean, ice cream and a parade are great, but when your boss believes in you enough that they want to invest in you, I think that's a motivator to me anyway. And I mean, I think, you know, when you're applying your trade and getting better at your trade, you feel better about your career. And I think that given that teachers are the front face of learning for our kids, I just will pimp PD till the day is over. Especially for one-time investments that we invest in people. So I just, that's my thought. I meant to mention that earlier, and I couldn't figure out how to use the link in the chat, Ramona. But that was my thought on that.
Do you want me to respond to that, Steve?
Sure.
Yeah. So I like the way you phrased it better than what I was going to say. But that's our plan. That's in our plan for the ESSER 2 money that connects with the summer school and into the acceleration next year. I talked with our ALT this week. I don't know why I left this out of my notes, but the teachers on the ALT are pretty excited about what we can do at Watkins, because this is funded with Watkins money, although I think we're going to be able to sneak some Peabody in there too. But we are en route to another partnership agreement that's all about social emotional learning and on the foundation of race and equity. So this partnership agreement would include basically capacity building initiatives at the leadership level to make sure our MTSS is solid and our structures are there, but also like the culture things, student culture that I was talking about earlier, like they're going to support us on designing and implementing our plan going forward. They're going to support us on professional learning and building onto our trauma responsive schools model. They're also going to support us with a full day of coaching a week. So the person that's with this organization is going to be on site at Watkins once a week, working with potentially the leadership team, but also in classrooms, direct feedback to teachers, having that third point of view, not at the school, but from this practitioner's place is going to be great. The coach is a clinician, social worker, and they're going to help us at all points in rolling out our model. And that's something that I'm really excited about, that when I shared it with ALT, they were really excited about it. No extra necessarily lift for teachers, but the support is there. The other thing that they're gonna that's in the agreement, where it stands now, is how do we our students with the most need, they're going to be able to consult with us on the support plans that are either in place, need to be in place, and implementing them with fidelity, including data monitoring and all those systems. So it's a really robust support for our MTSS, but not academics, all on the SEL lane of that MTSS triangle. So yeah, Steve, great point. Thanks for teeing me up to talk about that, because that's something I'm really, really excited about. I can't share until we have just the summer school partner thing. They were really careful with me in sharing who this is going to be, but they have partnerships for a couple of years with a small number of schools in DCPS already. I had a conversation with one of those principals where the program's been for years, and they can't say how great they can't say how great it is enough. So I'm very optimistic that that's going to be a big difference maker for us executing the plans that are in the works and we'll have finalized this summer.
Great.
I have a question for Principal Frazier. Do you know where on the priority list are we, considering that we do have summer engagement going on at Stuart Hobson, as well as how long will this audit for the HVAC system take?
Yeah, and I saw that question there from Ms. Featherstone about advocacy. I don't think I got, I'm double checking the email, the last update I got. I don't think I got a timeline on it.
So no timeline on the audit?
No, but there have been, DGS was in the building yesterday and today looking at HVAC. So I think they might be working on it immediately, but if there are no timelines, I think the retro commissioning is due to take place quote, this summer. So I would assume that means by the end of August, which is why I think they also committed to those mobile units.
So retro commissioning for the chillers?
For the HVAC system.
So actual
We're getting into your
HVAC
jargon.
system.
We're getting into your jargon and not mine.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
the question. Okay.
But yeah, retro commissioning for the HVAC system is the project.
Thank you.
And then to Ms. Featherstone's question of like, is additional advocacy needed? I'm honestly trying to do my work the way I'm asked to do it initially, which is, through the channels that I have as the principal and as the employee of the city. And I will say that like having seen other, challenges like this in other schools and knowing how frustrated people can get with DGS and the pace of, how things, might get addressed or the seriousness with what they might get addressed. I feel like this is a different response than Stuart Hobson's gotten in the past because I've seen the paper trail from before. And I think honestly, I don't know that the paper trail that I have access to goes back far enough, but I think that some of these questions, and the teachers might know, some of this might go back to the modernization. So I think that like getting, patchwork fixes for, hot classroom here or something like that, this seems different to me, at least what they've committed to on paper. So I think the advocacy, there's no harm in like making sure that we stay on that timeline. And I feel right now, I feel comfortable with like you all holding me to that, like holding me accountable to holding DCPS and DGS accountable for keeping us on pace with that, right? And I'll share what I know and what I can when it comes to with regards to like those timelines and stuff. And I know our parent community will advocate when they feel it's appropriate to. So I am trying to do that. Just through the channels that we're supposed to use, and I feel like I am getting heard right now. And if that changes, I'll definitely let people know.
So I use the Nearpod app. I was posting in the chat as well for a place for comments to be posted or questions. And one of them that's on the Nearpod, I don't know if you guys can access it. I'll see if I can. This is the link to the page where I'm seeing. There's only 4, and you just answered one. Let me know if you guys can access this link because my screen sharing didn't work earlier. I think I'm going to give up on that. But it was, will the HVAC issues at Stuart Hobson be resolved before the summer program? And are there enough cool rooms to accommodate the students you're anticipating? But in hearing what you just said and, Pam stepping in to help and everyone wanting to know how can we help to get the issue resolved? And I'm hopeful that it won't be a summer issue, that we can get it fixed before then. The other one, if you can't see, is are there any HVAC issues at Watkins that we should be aware of? And ironically, we already asked that question to Principal Berkowitz, and I think this still we're good. Thumbs up. No HVAC issues at Watkins.
No, I want to actually say I'm really proud of our team. The first warm days, we had our foreman do a walk around. There were some warm classes and we had the engineer there the next day, and I'm not getting any reports of hot classrooms. So I'm really proud of them, including the building engineer, Wale.
All right. Only 2 others, and it just says, will there be more grade level play dates across all grades as the weather warms up? And I think I may have seen that as a parent, that they're coming, probably come out by each grade level team. And then only one that pertains to use of funds, can additional funds be used to fund Kindred? So I will put that on the list. I don't know what the plan is, but we'll take it all into consideration. If there's any, let me check my chat.
Can I respond to that Kindred comment?
Sure.
So the short answer is yes, in truth, right? Like non-personnel funds is how the school pays for Kindred, parts of Kindred, right? The other funding for Kindred comes from the community, in large part the PTA. So I think it's important that our community kind of does rally around the Kindred work and makes a financial commitment. So I want Kindred to stay, but I also want our community to want it to stay, right? So when that will come up again in the fall, we'll ask the PTA for some donations for that. And I think we already have a grant committed. Ms. Brooks might have secured one for next school year. So I still want our community to kind of work for it, just like our school is working for it. So that's the short answer there. I want Kindred to stay. We have to fund them, of course, but I want that to be a community-wide effort.
Thank you for that. Well, we're to the public comment. I kind of opened that up by sharing some of the public comments that were on the Nearpod. And what I failed to share at the beginning was, I think I'm going to use this tool to kind of capture comments, feedback, questions as we work through our agenda each month, so that we can try to stay on task and move through our agenda. And we can revisit the Nearpod at the public comments component of our agenda, so that we can then address those questions without you kind of overloading an individual agenda item. So this seemed to work. I know it's new, so maybe as we all get a little more comfortable with it, me too, because I'm new to Nearpod, we'll get comfortable sharing it. And it can be an anonymous post, so you can put your name however you prefer, but that will help us to move through our agendas in the future quickly. So anyone here has a comment or question we're opening the floor at this point.
This is Gertie. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm driving, so but I wanted to ask about the CSP for Watkins. The previous principal had implemented a behavioral program. I can't remember the name of it, and it seemed to have some kind of prominent presence in the CSP, but I don't remember. Is that behavioral program? It was supposed to be like a 3-year program or something. Is that part of the current CSP, and will that remain?
Nate, I think you're talking about conscious discipline. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Gertie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, right, I remember that too. What I learned was there was maybe like a over promise, under deliver on the implementation of that. I think what I've learned is a lot of folks liked a lot of the content in it. Are we going to go full steam ahead into conscious discipline? We're not going to do that. A lot of the I don't know about a lot, but many of the components of conscious discipline are going to be and are embedded in the trauma responsive schools models, right? Like one of the most, I don't know, headline-y things about conscious discipline is like it'll fall under resilience, the breathing, intentional breathing strategies that we teach our students to regulate again. We're going to teach those, right? And that's a part of conscious discipline. Conscious discipline has a implementation plan, like you said, that the first year is all about the work with the adults. And that's important, but we're also going to have a lot of student-facing work going into it next year. So no, we're not going to lead with conscious discipline, but many of the important components are going to be embedded into our routines, relationships, and resilience trauma responsive schools model.
Okay, thanks. And so that's not explicitly part of the CSP?
The CSP won't say conscious discipline, no. But if you know conscious discipline, you'll see its fingerprints in our CSP, just because there's so much overlap between the trauma responsive school model and conscious discipline practices. And a lot of the SEL programs have connections, right? And we're pretty far along in responsive classroom at Peabody, and there's connections there because that's a routine, and it's also an opportunity to build relationships, and that's just one point of overlap. So I think like if we're branding our SEL work next year, it's going to be in the trauma responsive school models, but it doesn't mean we're letting go of some of the great parts of, we're definitely not letting go of the great parts of responsive classroom that are there, and the other great things about second step and conscious discipline.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask Principal Frazier if there's going to be any summer programming for the Tier 1 students? Oh, sorry, you just answered me in the chat.
It's fine. No, I can share it with everybody. When I was talking about the hybrid programs, that's what I meant. And just like full transparency, because we're doing the Acceleration Academy and we're doing the summer bridge for the rising sixth graders, and we have the current cohort restrictions, which like kids currently term 4 and going into the summer, unless it changes, secondary students can only be in one cohort. So they can only be with one group of students, and they can't go mix with another group for another activity on average during a month. And then there are limitations on how many different cohorts teachers can see. So when we put together like the staff that we have interested and available to do this stuff, we pretty quickly hit those ceilings on people's availability and flexibility. But I will say we do have some teachers working on, and I don't want to put them on the spot, but I know Ms. Rosera has been in on those conversations. She might be able to speak to where the team is in that. They're trying to put together some hybrid coursework that'll be like some self-paced, do this series of lessons. There will be virtual office hours. There might be the opportunity to do some in-person office hours with a math teacher or an English teacher. Unfortunately, it's not going to be as robust as we were hoping, because those same teachers that we had identified last summer and fall for this are now getting, they're getting pushed and pulled into the Acceleration Academy, summer school, and summer bridge work instead.
And is there any hope that there will be changes to these cohorting rules for the summer? And also, I guess, are the cohorting rules going to change for the school year? Because I presume that would also be a challenge for a middle school where everybody has to change classrooms.
It would be a major hurdle for the promise that the system is making to everybody about in-person school for everybody all the time next year. Yeah, so I'm anticipating that they'll change. I don't know when. And then the other thing, if we don't get the full 200 students that we're hoping to get for the Acceleration Academy, we've staffed for it. So it might free some of those teachers up to do programming for Tier 1 students. But similar to how we've thought about our Wednesday program, we want to make sure that we are exhausting our efforts to get the kids, the Tier 2 and Tier 3 students, in front of people this summer before we start, freeing up staff to work with kids who are on track. And that's just, that's been our equity stance since the RCC work. So we're just maintaining that through the summer.
Thank you.
Yep.
I will say for like math programming, I know the math department is working on like priority standards. So either standards we didn't get to because of time limitations, or standards that are like the big need to know for the next grade. And for rising algebra, we were interested. Howard University usually offers a program. Originally, the dates were still while we were in school. So we were like, well, that doesn't work. But they just changed it. So it's going to be in July now. So that's an additional layer that we'll send out.
And DCPS will offer a couple of other accelerator programs for Tier 1 students, though they break the seats up over all middle schools. So it actually creates while it's great, it creates a challenge for us, because we have 30 students that we would like to, from Stuart Hobson, that we would like to take advantage of one of those, but they only allocate 5 to 10 seats for us. So then we're left with 20 kids that we want to deliver the same thing to, and we have to figure out how to do that.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments in our open session?
I wanted to follow up on Principal Berkowitz when you talked about Watkins HVAC system being in good condition. Just confirming, I recall when we did the second walkthrough before term 3 started, that things were fine for the school to reopen in terms of ventilation, but there were some issues that needed to be resolved this spring in terms of ensuring that cooling capacity would be in place. And so are you saying that all of those outstanding work orders for Watkins HVAC system have been addressed?
I can't say that with certainty. I can say we haven't any reported cooling issues. I can double check the tickets for the work orders. But like I said, we've gone around, we've checked the units. They're making the air cool.
Okay. Thanks.
You know what though? Someone, I think that was Chris Miller, had a question about responsive classroom. Eric Miller. So the trauma responsive school model, he asked about to TRS, trauma responsive school model and responsive classroom. Are they close? Yeah, yes and no. The core components that we have working for us at Peabody and Watkins in the virtual space, right? I've seen only the recent practice for responsive classroom in person. The morning meeting is a really big part of it, right? That certainly is a great fit to the relationships aspect of trauma responsive school model. We're going to continue with that. Logical consequences are really big at Peabody. That's a perfect fit as well, because that builds, I think, resilience in relationships. So we're not going to let go of any parts of the responsive classroom that we're doing well. Like the ladder of consequences makes sense because that's predictable and that's a routine. And it's just that, like, to maintain responsive classroom, it's really expensive. You have to train everybody multiple times. And I don't think it's as comprehensive. They've probably adapted it to be trauma sensitive, but the district is fully supporting the TRS, and our social workers are expected to do it by central office, just like I am as the principal. So we're not letting go of anything that's working regarding responsive classroom, but the umbrella of our SEL approach is going to be the trauma responsive school model. Does that answer your question clearly enough? Mr. Miller?
Yes, sorry, this is Lindsay. It does answer my question. I think I was just curious about, I know PTA's funded programs in the past and transitions to programs. Does the district then support the trauma response? So there won't be like a request for funding for new models?
I don't have a plan to make a new or different model, no. And like I was saying earlier with the that potential partnership that's in the works, like that, they are fully aligned with the trauma responsive school model and supporting us getting it off the ground, in addition to the like turnkey training that principals or mental health team members get from the district.
Okay. And then I think in the past, we've rolled out sort of the explanations to the parent community just so they can support at home when it's appropriate, with similar logical consequences, almost training parents and supporting parents in similar efforts, just so that we're supporting what the teachers are doing in the classroom. And that's, I think, been helpful in our community. I know a lot of parents felt like they learned a lot from responsive classrooms. So similar to the other one that we did that Gertie mentioned, conscious discipline. So maybe in the fall, once we get a little under our belt, it'd be helpful to share more of that with the community.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
Thank you. That definitely answers my question.
Thank you. Any other? Floor is open. Don't see any hands raised. Okay. All right, well, seeing that there are no other questions, going once, going twice, do that fast. I think we have come to the end of our meeting for this month. So I want to say thank you to all who are here this evening or attended. Once again, express my appreciation to all of the teachers that are on here tonight. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening. Have a wonderful week. And we will see you next month. You'll hear from me with regards to elections, but I'll keep recruiting. And some of you might get some direct emails from me. If you know anyone you want to nominate, you want me to reach out to, shoot me an email. I will pick up the phone and call them. Thank you all so very much. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, guys.